And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is here, which you can get on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside the Birds for their YouTube content. This hour of the show, it's brought to you by Jersey Cal in Northfield, and they are at 1600 Chilton Road. Join Jersey Cal in Northfield tomorrow all day and celebrate their second anniversary. They'll have prizes and giveaways and a shot at free Jersey Cal ice cream for a year. Holy mackerel, that would be fantastic. You know, I was there at Jersey Cal the first night that it opened, and here they are 2 years later, right up the street from the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. I am at Charlie's in Summers Point, and here is Adam Caplan from Inside the Birds podcast for another edition of Football at 4. What's going on, Adam?
Mike, good to be with you. Yeah, this game Monday night against the Falcons will be the first of 3 straight games for the Eagles against the NFC South. Well, what a scheduling quirk, and remember, that's before they even play an NFC East game. It's just really odd, but yeah, there you go. I mean, that's what they're going to do, and this is their first home game at the Link, of course. So that it's going to be an interesting lead up to Monday night's game here in Philly.
First home game at the Link. Before we get into some news and notes, they don't play a lot of home games. Nick Sirianni was asked about this yesterday, about the lack of home games early in the season. I guess it's how you look at it. They're going to be loaded up late in the year with a bunch of home games, but a lot of road games early to start things off. You had that Brazil game, which would have been in Philly, and now this one on Monday night. Do you like the back-to-back prime times to start things off?
Yeah, well, Mike, by the way, on your point, I didn't even know this, but now you mention it, 4 out of their final 5 games are at the Link. So, yeah, that's when we discussed the schedule to start the season, I didn't even look at that or didn't even think about that. But how, when you really look at it, so weeks 3 and 4, they're on the road at New Orleans and at Tampa Bay. Again, that NFC South swing. They have a bye, so they really only have one game at the Link within the first 6 weeks. That's bizarre, but it is what it is. It's the way the schedule is. But yeah, look, it's pretty interesting that they were able to win that game, as Mike, as we talked earlier this week with Green Bay. They survived. They came out of the game, pretty healthy. Just one guy added to the injury report is Milton Williams, who came out of the game with a foot injury. He did work some yesterday. They're still practicing actually as we speak, Mike. So, by the way,
is that new this year, Adam?
Available. Go ahead.
Is that new? Are they going to do that the whole year with these 3:00 in the afternoon practices?
Well, here's the thing. I guess what Sirianni mentioned a couple weeks ago is that Vic Fangio actually recommended it. So that's a good question, Mike. We don't know, but right now it looks like it's here to stay. So what I do miss, Mike, as you know, over the last couple of years, the Eagles, unless the game was on Monday night, well, actually, no, it pretty much was consistent. They would release their injury report between 4 and 4:05, and like every day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for a Sunday game. Or even if it was a Monday game, they would release it Thursday and Friday. Thursday would be the first injury report like we had yesterday. And we would break in on this segment for a couple years. And now we're not. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Though the Falcons, we'll get to them in a second. I have their injury report. I just got it. That's updated. But no, the good thing is, Mike, Milton Williams, look, it's the only one. He's the only one that's new. Devin White with the ankle, Isaiah Rodgers, they both are going to be available barring some kind of setback. But the big story here, not that it's a surprise, they're going to stick with Nakobe Dean. No duh. Why would they not? We expected that. But, Mike, one thing you have to know, and we talk about this on today's Inside the Bird show, Devin White's contract just going to make under $5 million this season. His base salary became fully guaranteed last week. So the Eagles owe him, if he never played a down for the Eagles, they would owe him $4.991 million this season no matter what.
And he didn't seem thrilled about how this all went down, but I guess he's handling it like a good soldier. I saw the video of him, and he kind of was like, you're going to have to ask them what my role is, right?
Well, here's the thing. So we talked about this morning as well. The Eagles have 6 inside backers on their 53-man roster. They don't have another inside backer on the practice squad. They cut Brandon Smith off of it. It's not like they needed another inside backer. You really only need 4 in your 53. They have 6 for various reasons. But the bottom line is, Mike, he has no role. Honestly, now he's a backup Mike linebacker, we still thought he was out of position. Should be more of a weak side linebacker in their front, their odd man front. They start two inside backers.
Yeah,
it's just kind of weird. We don't know. I know some people have asked us, could he be an edge rusher like maybe some other inside backers who have been kind of moved around. Jamin Davis for Washington, who was a first-round pick. They're trying to get something out of him, so they moved more of an edge rusher role. Look, the thing is, Mike, they didn't sign him to be an edge rusher. I know he can blitz. We know that. But that's really not his role. I mean, you can do it if he's active. But it'll be fascinating to see. And, by the way, this shows you that Vic Fangio is truly in charge without any interference from anybody.
That's
a good point. You know what he said about Bryce Huff this week, Mike? It's pretty revealing.
Yeah, and you would imagine Huff was more of a Roseman hire, signing, if you will, than maybe a Fangio. But the one thing with White is, with Dean's injury history, I guess you got to keep him around in the event that Dean got hurt.
Of course. Now, understand just a couple things. Let me just explain what you just talked about. The general manager in this case, Howie Roseman, has full personnel control. He makes every decision. Howie's pretty good from talking to people who've worked for him before. He will get input from his coaches, his coordinators, because you don't want to. You never want to force a player on a coordinator, because ultimately Howie can't coach. The coordinator makes the decisions, and there's no way that signing Devin White without Vic saying, you know what, we'll make it work, or we like him enough. Now we had the nugget for our Patreon people 3 weeks ago, and we'll mention it again. We had a coach tell us from another team who was assigned backers and for free agency, amongst other positions, and he said that after grading his tape last season, he told his team that he worked for, do not sign the player. Just didn't like the tape. So obviously Howie and other people liked it, but he didn't perform well enough. But it was odd, as you and I have talked about. He did out-snap everyone else at inside backer, both sides, the weak side and the middle side in training camp. But that goes to show you, at the end of training camp, they summed everything up, and White got benched.
All right, Adam Caplan, really good stuff with Adam. Of course, you can get more on the Inside the Birds podcast. The injuries, yesterday's report, Milton Williams was limited, and then White and Rogers were both full participants. So it looks like this team pretty healthy. We know White not going to be the starter, not sure his role. What about Rogers when he returns and if he plays? Is he back on the outside and Mitchell's inside, or do you think they keep Mitchell on the outside and stick with Maddox in the slot, or maybe Cooper DeJean or somebody else?
Yeah, I would be absolutely stunned if Mitchell is not playing on the outside, Mike. He said, no, it doesn't mean he can't travel, when they play man coverage, but the Eagles are a very light man coverage team. That's been Fangio's story of his career. So now Rogers is only playing outside corner for now. He's not been cross-trained. Now, a lot of teams, Mike, I should tell you, thought he could really only be a slot corner because he's not really big. But you got to be more physical to play inside like Avonte Maddox is. Now, we also know that Maddox didn't play well last week. We get it. I'm fascinated to see who's going to be nickel. Will Cooper DeJean be that guy? That's what our understanding was. He'd be playing this season before he got hurt. They've got to get to that. We expect that to happen. But you know what, Mike? Also, watch what happens with Cooper DeJean against tight ends, specifically Kyle Pitts this week. That's
a good matchup.
One of the reasons why they drafted him.
Yep, that's a good matchup. Who's going to be on Pitts this week? That's something to keep an eye on. Falcons on the injury side there. Caleb McGarry, their right tackle, he's got a growing problem. Everybody else, mostly backups for them. They seem pretty healthy. Yeah,
a couple of things on their injury report, Mike, which you folks should be aware of. So McGarry, they expect him to go. Now, Nate Landman is one of their starting inside backers. Very questionable to play. Now, they'll be okay. They've got depth there. Now, what's hurt them, Mike, is Rondale Moore, who was going to be their third receiver, their number 3. He's on IR, and that hurt them. So they just don't. They really don't have a good number 3 receiver, Mike, to be honest with you. In fact, what happened is because of the way that the game went, Ray McLeod, who's been a special teams returner a lot in his career, he is now their third receiver filling in. He actually led them in receiving last week, which is not what you want. So that hurt them, Mike. Now, one other thing, Kirk Cousins, we put his transcripts up on our Patreon page for our members. Cousins really went against people who think that his Achilles is a problem. he shot that down. They started working with him in shotgun in the offseason. He confirmed that. He had some great quotes. So he did not agree with Chase Daniel, former Eagles quarterback, who does a great job of breaking down tape. So he just didn't agree with it. And I'm fascinated to see where Kirk Cousins played most of his snaps in his career under center. So we'll see if it changes on Monday night here at the Link.
Adam Caplan, obviously, yes, you mentioned Cousins. They got Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. There is their top receiver out there. So interesting offense there, their offensive line. One question I think we're going to see on Tuesday when you're back, okay, the first question we're going to ask maybe on Tuesday is, did they get enough pressure? And if they didn't get pressure against this team and Kirk Cousins, very immobile, that might be a worry moving forward.
Well, Mike, it was a worry in training camp. We just did not see a really good, consistent pass rush. I know they had a really good week against New England, remember, in the game and also in the joint practice. But, man, I got to be honest with you, Mike, we just never came out of training camp thinking, wow, they got someone who consistently pass rush. They just didn't have that. Mike, it's fair. I mean, we're going to see. We'll get a better idea on Monday night. Now, Jalen Hunt, by the way, look, he was inactive week one. We're not expecting him to be a factor for a while. We know that they thought he really progressed. He's a raw player. He needs work. But, man, overall, and that's why we should mention BG had a very good training camp. I don't think it's a great sign. I mean, obviously give BG his props, and he deserves to be on the field at 36 years old.
Yep.
But Bryce Huff is the guy they're paying $17 million a season, Mike. They cannot get out of his contract the first 2 years. It's $34 million, fully guaranteed the first 2 years. He's just got to produce, Bryce Huff.
Yes, and Vic Fangio said he's got to beat somebody else. He's got to separate himself from the other guys. Not exactly a ringing endorsement for Bryce Huff, right?
Yeah, I love Fangio. I've always said Jim Johnson was my favorite Eagles assistant coach of all time. I just was a great man. And Mike, what I loved about Jim Johnson was that he would give us information, and he would say, I probably should have said that, and he would laugh, because he knew that he was worried about if Andy would get mad at him. But with Vic, you don't tell Vic Fangio anything. He does what he wants. I love his honesty, man, because we learn a lot. We learn the way he thinks. I mean, I think it's great.
I was going to say, what kind of conversations go on between Fangio and Sirianni?
What do you mean by that? Like what?
Just like what kind of they don't seem to have the similar personalities by any stretch. Like I can't imagine what those two guys sitting
Nick's
around.
Nick's trying to be secretive, right? Nick's trying to be a little secretive. Although it's funny, every once in a while he does this where he gives out information.
Yeah.
But his first year he sure was great with it. Then he started buttoning it up a little bit. But yeah, look, this is good because it's not just injury information; it's lineup information. Well, he's not really doing injury information, Vic. It's more lineup information.
Yeah.
Who's doing well, who's not. But look, and I know he doesn't like to say guys doing great. Well, I know for a fact Quinyon Mitchell's been one of their highest-graded players since training camp started, Mike, until now, overall. And Vic, I mean, the fact that he cross-trained him to play inside, it tells you how talented this kid is.
By the way, you know who played for Vic Fangio was our buddy Colin Thompson when he was in Chicago. And he said the only thing that Vic would open up about was where to eat food. If you want to get Vic Fangio to open up, ask him where to go for dinner, and he'll have all the spots around town to kind of tell you, hey, go over there. That's when you kind of break him down a little bit. So if you ever need
funny about that, Mike? He mentioned the Palladium in Philly. I couldn't believe it because that place has been around forever. It's fantastic.
Yes.
But yeah, and Vic talked about the Phillies, about when Castellanos was struggling. I couldn't believe he brought that up. Because remember, he's from the Wilkes-Barre area. It's funny. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, and listen, I think the Eagle, it's funny, too, because he runs kind of a Gannon type of defense, which is not a big blitzing defense. And Eagle fans, they want that blitz. I always say, though, Eagle fans like personality over performance. I think it's more they just didn't like John Gannon, his personality, and they like Fangio's personality, even though they run the similar defense.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's Fangio's defense, and that's what Gannon was running. He was running his version of it. He never really worked. He never worked for him. It's kind of funny. That's what Nick wanted, and that's what he got. And look, what it is John DeFilippo, the former Eagles quarterbacks coach, told us John did some great work for us last year for Patreon, which if you joined, you can actually find it. It's back there, but you can find it. But John said that with match, carry, deliver, the scheme that they run with sim pressures, he wants to make you bleed. He wants the quarterback to be impatient, and we saw this in Chicago. Like, you think you got something, but it's a disguise, the post-snap disguise. It makes you wait. By the time you get to the red zone, the quarterback forces it and makes a mistake, and that, folks, that's coming. That's just the way it is. They're not going to blitz a lot. They're always bottom 10, Mike, in blitz percentage. Some years bottom 5. That's just the way it is.
Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Make sure you check that out on all podcasting platforms. Their YouTube channel, just search Inside the Birds here on a Friday edition with Adam Caplan. He'll be looking back at the Eagles Monday Nighter when we talk to him on Tuesday. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.